It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And we are talking today about something inspired by the internet. No, yes. Not the Leanna Care Service, which is fully booked on Wednesdays now. There's actually one slot right in the middle of the day, but yeah, it's filling up. There's still spots available on Thursdays. And it's first come, first serve. So if you want to become a Leanna Cares chatter, link in the description box below. It's kind of taken off faster than I expected, which is a good problem to have. If you want to support Leanna Cares and other various initiatives of mine, including the Song of Sparkle Muffin game, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. The Leanna Care service is offered at a very, very affordable rate. So any patron support in that regard to allow people to get affordable, friendly ear services, all the better. This is one of these things that I think I've already talked about. I know I've talked about. I don't know if it's specifically a Wellness Wednesday thing, but the idea of anger being this weird thing where some people do not consider getting angry to be an emotion. Anger is very much an emotion. You feel angry. Feeling angry is legitimate. Thing is, anger is a super complicated thing. People don't feel sad to avoid feeling something else. People don't feel scared to avoid feeling something else most of the time. People don't feel happy to avoid feeling something else. But anger is a masking emotion. I call anger a masking emotion because sometimes you are legitimately angry. And that is totally valid. Other times you're getting angry, and anger and aggression are not the same thing, but you're getting angry or you're getting aggressive to avoid feeling sad or scared or something that is considered by society to be more vulnerable. I argue that using anger in this way actually makes you more vulnerable because people who don't have the wisdom to recognize what's going on in terms of that masking and in terms of whatever, they're just going to think, frankly, you're an asshole. And they're not going to listen to you. They're less likely to help you when you're in a bind because people in general just don't like being around angry people. And one of the reasons that people don't like being around angry people is that it's very hard to empathize with other people when you're angry. It's one of those white hot emotions that cuts everything else off unless you learn to process it. And so, because anger, if you're not processing it effectively, cuts off your ability to empathize with other people are going to think you're a jerk. You don't seem to care about their feelings, so fair's fair, right? They are not interested in yours. And I see so many people with a very antisocial form of anger on the internet. And the thing is, I can see where there could be some legitimate pain behind their anger on a lot of issues. I can see why they would be bothered by some of these things we talk about. But their anger is not allowing them to connect to the actual topic, and they come across as trying to derail on a tangent. And this is the problem with unprocessed, white-hot anger that people use to avoid feeling the considered more tender emotions, right? The other thing I find interesting is that anger in people who are not white, straight, cisgender men is treated differently. And again, no slag on white, straight, cisgendered men. You can't help being a white, straight, cisgendered man. But I do find it is treated differently uh, across the male female spectrum, and it's certainly treated differently in terms of different races. Um, and that's why I'm like, okay, yes, there's the stereotype of the angry black man, which is why, that's sort of delegitimizing anger. Um, but there's this catch all now, this sort of trap, right, where anger's being weaponized so that people don't feel like they can admit that they're angry, even though they clearly are. And that's an order of magnitude worse, because any emotion you try to repress or you try to deny just gets more control over you. And, I've seen it in many workplaces where someone will needle someone until they get angry. And then they'll punish that person for getting angry. And it's like, but you just needled that person for 45 minutes. Anybody would have snapped under that. Oh, they're unprofessional, right? And that's a problem. That's out of control bullying. And, I'm not saying that white, straight, cisgender men aren't there. There is never a punishment for getting angry. It just, let's face it, there's a lot more archetypes of when you think about comic book stuff, like there's way more male comic book characters are like, right? You don't see very many female comic book characters like, right? And not even, you don't even see that many you don't see Shang-Chi on his poster like, right? The Hulk, yeah, he's always angry. That's sort of his defining characteristic. But that scowly superhero thing, we have to wonder what that's about. How come we aren't telling our male superheroes to smile more? And yet, Captain Marvel doesn't smile on her poster, and it's a big deal. There's an example, right? Frankly, I think a smiling Captain America makes more sense, because he's like, hey, I'm Captain America. I am the ultimate American, like old school 40s, 50s, American hero aesthetic, which was much more, hey, chum, you want a glass of milk? But it's all like half smile, not too much, slightly above looking like I'm passing gas, right? There clearly is a difference in social expectations. Now, that doesn't mean it's better or easier, because the flip side of people who get more license to show anger, the trade-off tends to be less social license to show anything else. And that's why anger is a masking emotion. And there have been a lot of conversations, a lot of writing on the way that the women in men's lives perpetuate that and exacerbate that. Women say they want a sensitive guy, but then when a guy is feeling vulnerable, it's like, man up. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Because, out of control anger is bad for you, the same way out of control sadness is bad for you. Or even being too optimistic and not seeing the warning signs of certain things. Any extreme is bad for you. But when all your other emotions are getting piled into the angry pile, you end up making a lot of mistakes. You end up driving people away. You end up doing... And you end up accusing a lot of people of being angry who aren't. If I had a nickel for every guy on the internet that was displacing or, projecting and telling me I was angry when I was, when I'm writing something or doing a video, I'm like, this is so silly. And they, well, you're so angry. It's like, or one guy actually gave me a cry me a river when I was just joking around. I was like, what? You're the one crying, man. You're the one getting all upset about something that's not worth getting upset about. And of course, these are people who will absolutely deny they are having any feeling whatsoever because they think they need to be beings of pure logic with a side of anger and outrage, right? Outrage! I mean, that's part of social justice warrior, right? He gets outraged because that's manly, right? Solomon's a cream puff, and that's why people like him, but he still thinks he has to be like outraged. Obviously, you see where some of that character came from. But it makes me really sad. And my heart goes out to people who are in this trap. I don't give them what they want. But I do feel very bad for them because that whole thing of, like projecting emotions onto other people, that's the fastest way possible to drive someone away. Because people don't want to be around people who are telling them what they are and how they're feeling. I know what I'm feeling. I'll tell you what I'm feeling if we have that kind of relationship. But no, don't be getting that muck on me. That's your deal. That's not my deal. And this is the thing a lot of people don't teach you about anger. Anger does not mean you lose control. The person who used anger as a superpower in literature more than anyone is a female character, Granny Weatherwax from the Discworld series. And, many speculate that Granny Weatherwax was actually Terry Pratchett's self-insert character in the Discworld universe. But Granny Weatherwax had a slow, burning, productive, methodical anger that underwrote everything she did. And so she could use it to be powerful and productive. That's what happens when you process, understand, and own your anger. Now, you should not be feeling that way all the time. That's exhausting. But periods of just, this isn't right, this pisses me off, I'm going to do something about it, can be very productive and can in fact be healthy because you're controlling it. It's not controlling you. Thing is, in order to get there, you have to admit you're angry and you have to stop being afraid that means you've done something wrong. Or that means, oh no, I'm not being completely logical. I have a feeling. I don't know where we got that shit from. I mean, you go back to the original series of Star Trek, Spock had feelings. The whole thing about him not having feelings was like racist stuff McCoy threw at him. Spock had feelings. The Vulcans practiced logic, right? The Vulcans may not have felt things as acutely as humans do, but the Vulcans have had feelings. I say had because Vulcan lore in Star Trek now is just out the window. Star Trek consistency is just imploded. And then we get into, the whole force thing, the whole dark side thing with fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to the dark side. Now, okay, even there, anger leads to hate. Anger is not hate. So you're not at the dark side if you're just angry. There is a flowchart there, right? So it's important, and that there, it's important to go, I'm angry, so you can deal with the anger and not let it metastasize into hate. I know when I am feeling like I hate this person, not The Sims, that was a joke. Like, I really hate this person. It's time for me to step back. It's time for me to process what's going on. What is making me feel this way? What is it about this person that is rattling me so badly? So I can be in control and stay in my power. and not give that power to another person through an emotion I cannot process. And therefore, I may not be able to control my reactions. That's a very important process to learn. That's a big part of adulting. That's a big part of mental health. Feeling things means processing things. Feeling things does not mean they overwhelm you and control your behavior. You are always in control of you. And the way to do that is to make sure those feelings don't overwhelm. And sometimes that involves stepping back. And you may not be in absolute, like there are times you're not in absolute power over your circumstances when you're younger. I mean, this is for adults, right? Teenagers, different story. The years between us, like 15 and 18 for boys, like 13 and God, when do women stop being insane? 18, 19, I guess, 17, I don't know. Women have a longer free fall period, physiologically. But but the thing is, for boys between 15 and 18 years old, that is intense. Like, there is legitimate, like, dysregulation that you can't do very much about, except sort of contain it all for those until, make sure they don't do anything too stupid until they get out in the world. That's just the best we know of science now. And I mean, that's the thing, right? The periods where people are most physiologically out of control because, yay, puberty, and brain development are the very times society now cracks down on them and doesn't let them do anything but plan for their college future. It's so fucked. And I think that's part of the reason there are so many people out there who are so anxious and so frightened of themselves and their own reactions. They never had the opportunity to get into some good trouble while they were kids, because it was all, you gotta get into that good school because that's your whole life. That's insane. It's freaking insane. We're inducing insanity. Like, there's no way people can figure out who they are, what they want, what makes them happy, what makes them feel bad, if they aren't allowed to explore the world through anything but a tablet, a computer, or a book, right? Like, it's just so messed up. There is education, and then there is experience, and teenagers and young adults need that experience. It's super, super, super important. That's where all the Wellness Wednesday content comes from. And, I share studies, I share stuff with Leanna Cares clients, but I mean, the bulk of what I share with you guys is because of my own experiences, because I grew up with family members who had their whole lives profound anger management issues. And part of the reason that they had anger management issues is they could never admit they were angry. Or if they admitted they were angry, it was always somebody else's fault. It was this grievous wrong done against them, as opposed to a part of the human experience. Because when you own your anger, when you admit you're angry, well, then you're being accountable for it. And the minute you start being accountable for it, it's not a hall pass to do whatever you want. And that's true of any emotion. Any emotion is not a hall pass to do whatever you want. Fear is not a hall pass to do whatever you want. Yes, overwhelming states, like I said, hijack the intellect. Yes, that is an explanation. It's not an excuse. If you keep getting overwhelmed and you're not taking steps to head that off, you're not developing better coping skills and better processing skills, that is your responsibility. No one else's. If you're in an abusive environment and someone is controlling your movements and won't let you walk away and get space and get calm, okay, that's different. But there are a lot of people living in states of learned helplessness because they feel like they have to just project this weird sort of false perfection to the world. And that means never admitting you have a feeling, because feelings aren't logical. And therefore, they don't know how to self-soothe. They don't know how to head those meltdowns off at the past. They don't know how to do this stuff because they've been made to feel ashamed of the tools. The first step to processing your emotions is to acknowledge you have them and name them. It doesn't need to be a name anybody else understands. You can name a particular emotion, Fred the Viking, I just pulled that name out of my butt. Name it whatever you want, but name it. Determine the variable, assign the variable. You can't input something into a string of code unless you have created a consistent tag for that variable. Because once you have those variables, you can do the if, then, if, or if, da-da-da-da-da. You can strategize for how to process and how to control your behavior and process your feelings. But what ends up happening if you're refusing to admit you're having a human thing, and that's feelings are human or humanoid or being like, or if you don't self-define as a human, that's okay. You can still be a human for the purpose of this exercise. If you're not naming it, it's just rattling around and causing damage, right? And that goes for any feeling that you can't admit you're having. If you try to mask everything with anger, because anger feels safe, anger feels powerful, well, all those things you're really feeling underneath the anger, they're just rattling around causing damage. Unnamed emotions are like pieces of broken glass in your soul. And there's no way around that. The more you practice going, okay, I'm not feeling so great right now. Let's do the steps. Let's walk the path. Let's be good to ourselves. The more you practice that, the easier it gets. And that's why you see a lot of older people who are just like, nah, even me, I'm so meh about so many things. I've seen 20 of these. It go be all right, And people get frustrated with that because why can't I see how very important it is? Well, because it's not. It's not. That's some unresolved thing. That's some unresolved trauma or unresolved fear. Like, that's a bad dream that won't go away. And some things are extremely important. I'm not saying nothing's important. I'm just saying a lot of the things that people fight about over the internet actually aren't that important. And I'd much rather talk about the underlying issues that are causing people's feelings than the stupid, petty shit we fight about because the YouTube algorithm loves it. Right? Right. All right. Interesting to hear what you have to say about this. What are your methods for processing anger? And if you want to support Leanna Cares and Wellness Wednesdays, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.